I'm upset that we've actually had to reach this point today, ladies and gentlemen, where I'm asking you if you feel the same way that I feel about the 4-star champion ban in Act 5 and further restrictions and bans on bringing in 5-star champions. To go to the Apple or Google Play Store right now, take 30 seconds, take a minute out of your day, and leave a 1-star review. I'm so upset that we actually have to get to this point where the only way that I feel like I can voice my concern and the concerns of everybody else that kind of aligns with my perspective and opinion is to leave 1-star reviews. I think throughout this entire process, in the past would have been straight away like 1-star reviews, we're going to boycott this shit, but around this time I've tried to be as reasonable, as civil as possible, address all of the points in full, cover every single counterpoint as well, because if we look at the way that this has been handled, the initial Act 6 announcement on Wednesday evening, they announced that you can't bring in any champion under 5-star, so effective 4-star champion ban, and then I gave them like a day and a bit to respond. They kind of posted up because there was a massive amount of negative feedback on that from the community that was only surging and growing as kind of time passed. So they said, you know what guys, we're going to take a bit of time, we're going to get a developer to respond to this with the insight. So I was like, you know what, I'll hear them out, I don't want to rush into anything too much. And then that response came back, and we did that initial video on Friday, kind of responding to that response, and that was a load of rubbish. It was the biggest bunch of nonsense I've ever seen. I tore apart every single one of those points piece by piece, and we had absolutely no follow-up until I think it was like Saturday kind of morning here, sorry, Saturday evening / Sunday morning UK time, where Kabam Mike came in and further responded, saying that there are going to be gates and paths in later Act 6 that require you to bring a certain amount of 6-star champions, effectively negating and banning 5 stars in certain circumstances or heavily limiting them. Again, the full details of that, I imagine, are still kind of in development, up in the air. But yeah, that just kind of proves the further intention to ban 5-star champions in the future as well. So I'm so upset that we've kind of got to that point, and I made a video responding to that and just how incredibly rubbish it was. And at the start of the video, I was making a few jokes because the more this goes on, the essentially saltier I find, more frustrated and saltier I find myself feeling about it. And at the start of the video, I made some personal attacks against somebody that I personally have a fair few disagreements with, and for the course of the decision, I made the decision yesterday to go back and trim that part out just so we could focus on the core issues and arguments at hand when it comes to banning 4-star champions and 5-star champions in the future, because that's what I want to focus on. As a player of this game, I love Marvel Contest of Champions. I think it's an absolutely fantastic game at its core. I've played this game for over 3 years now. I have so much fun with it. I've dedicated at the moment all of my career to it as well. I have so much fun playing it on YouTube. We make so many videos, breakdowns. I spend a good probably about 60 to 80 hours a week involved in Marvel Contest of Champions. And as somebody that has a deep love for this game, I want nothing more than this game in the longer term to succeed and attract as many players as possible, because that's great for me. It means I get to share my videos with a larger audience of people that are enjoying the game and just have a lot more fun with it. And it's better for the game because the game gets more money and can do all sorts of cool stuff. So understand, when I'm speaking about criticizing Marvel Contest of Champions, I'm not doing it from the perspective of I want to tank the game, I want the game to be over. I'm speaking from the perspective of a passionate fan that has 3 different perspectives: that of a blubbery whale account that spent about $15,000 US, a year-and-a-half free-to-play account, Whale Milker 27, who I've constantly time and time proven that I can use skill and strategy and alternative tactics to bypass all sorts of crazy content that the wider community might not have thought was possible. So I love that account. But also I've got the third perspective of I want to ditch that free-to-play account and create a brand new one as well, because that free-to-play account is becoming a little bit too stacked for the majority of the content. So in the future as well, I want to go back and have those challenges again, because one of the most fun times I had in this game was using my free-to-play account and the knowledge and the skill that I had obtained on the main account to go back and take on these crazy challenges with champions that were, you know, not the best tier ones, you know, fairly mid-tier characters, and interesting and alternative strategies, and planning out and spending my resources very, very carefully. And I thought, as a player, that was such a rewarding and gratifying experience. So I've had so much fun on the free-to-play account, and quite frankly, I'd love that experience again. I'd love to do it again. But first, I want to, you know, try and finish off the majority of stuff I have to do on my other free-to-play account before I start the third one. So I'm coming at this and pretty much everything in the game with those 3 different perspectives. I've got whale, I've got current, you know, mid-tier, end-game free-to-play player, whatever you want to call it, and then I've got future player of the game that's not going to spend any money as well. And I just think the 4-star champion ban, again, I've talked about it a fair bit, and I'm going to cover all of my points just to kind of recap and end off this video as well. But one thing I was having a bit of a read into is this interview actually from the Kabam CEO on the 30th of January earlier this year. Fortnite has shown us what consumers expect. Kabam CEO. Now, it's a very long interview. Talks a lot about kind of mobile gaming and different games and different platforms and stuff, and it's well worth a read if you've got some time. I'll link it below. But I want to focus on a couple of paragraphs that are, you know, are direct quotes of the Kabam CEO that I believe are personally completely violated by the decisions that have been made for the Act 6 requirements. So the first one is just really about our players, and I think this one's just a little bit of rubbish here. We are very focused on building excellent software and entertainment for players and engaging people globally, and so our approach with the players is we connect from players around the world so they can make friends with other people and really enjoy playing these games with each other, and we've connected people on a global scale. We're having more conversations with them, being more transparent with them, and beefing up our community teams as well so that we can have those discussions with players to improve our products for them. Kabam's new focus reminds me of EA's player first mantra from several years ago. I mean, if you're going to quote a player first mantra, Electronic Arts probably, you know, they're probably not the best example. They're probably not completely up there. But to go to the summary paragraph again, there's a lot here about various mobile games and the industry as a whole. Now, to quote the Kabam CEO himself, I used to tell my designers 20 years ago, your competition is not other games on a PlayStation. Your competition is kissing that person you're excited about. Your competition is the best meal you can have. Your competition is what the most awesome movie is. What I'm competing with, whatever game we build, is the total sum of pleasurable human enterprise out there, because that's where you and I each could go and spend our time instead. And so that minute that you choose to spend playing a game, truly I'm competing with every other wonderful thing in the world. I think that's a very valuable way for game builders and content builders of any kind to think about this problem. The only thing that matters is your attention, is that you care, which is why I put monetization so far down the list of things that matter. If they love you and are willing to spend time on you, then there's unlimited money in that. Now, I think in terms of a game development phrase, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. But having played this game and seeing some of the decisions that have been made, especially this 4-star champion ban, I don't believe it for a second. I do not believe this at all, and especially the way that this has been handled, where we have not had any direct answers at all that properly address the situation of why you can't bring in 4 stars, and it leads the community to believe that the only reason is or reasons is A, that you want people to spend more money buying 5- and 6-star champion bundles so they can accelerate their progression and sooner kind of get into Act 6 if they don't have the luck for it, or B, that you want to increase the amount of time that people are waiting and stalling about, and in the words of the goblins of Booty Bay in World of Warcraft, time is money, friend. Time is money. They're kind of an interchangeable currency, at least in my worldview anyway. So I just view it as one and the same. I just view this as a cash grab, because going back to my previous points and to summarize what the 4-star ban does, at least in my opinion, is it screws over players that don't have a fully fledged out roster of 5 and 6-star champions, which is roughly 99.5% of the community. It will force players to go through fun and interactive fights without suitable counters, thus forcing more spending and unit usage, aka grinding, aka time, aka money, lads. So fun fights like Korgs, Magics, Dormammu's, Electro, Mephisto, Domino, Havoc, and I imagine much more championing node combinations throughout Act 6 are really going to be, you know, super fun to deal with. It also massively limits the power and utility available to players that rely on 4-star champions. For both synergy and team setups, which is a wide majority of the community. I would say, again, 99.5% of people fall into this, and even myself, as I've mentioned before, when doing variant 100%, I had to use 4-star champions to fill gaps in my roster. They were very valuable, especially on my main account, but even on my free-to-play account, even more valuable then. So 4-star champions are still heavily relevant if you have the skill to bring them. And it does not allow skilled players to overcome Act 6 story content with high-tier gameplay and strategy using their 4-star champions, which many have already heavily invested in. And this is another point where people have been using resources like T4CC, T4 Basic, and all of that stuff to invest in 4-star champions as opposed to 5-star ones, because they only knew kind of a week before that 4-star champions would have a ceiling on them. Now, again, that point would be maybe a little bit more acceptable if this was known like 6 months in advance, when Act 6 was initially being kind of announced and speculated, and that one would have helped mitigate it, but a week in advance, lads, was just, you know, taking the piss a little bit as well. Further rewards Wales, who already have significantly more access to 5-star champions, 6-star champions, Tier 2 Alpha, Tier 5 Basic, and rank up resources. Wales get the advantage in Act 6 of a much wider access to synergies and champion counters, on top of all the additional rank up resources. They can whale up more rank 5 champions, more rank 2 6-stars, and it sets the example for future content that Kabam can gate off content by star, which will further reduce the value of 4-star champions and eventually escalate into 6-star champion exclusive content, which is further going to screw over people who are getting very unlucky when it comes to pulling and opening 6-star champion crystals. At its core, I just hate that this change further disadvantages players who are already at a disadvantage in terms of the champions that they pull in this game. There's a huge difference between your beyond god tier champions and your, you know, fairly usable meme tier champions. They're a complete world apart, and in some scenarios, god tier, beyond god tier champions can be 10 to 20 times more effective at the same level and rank than a crappy champion in the crystal. So there's a huge disparity in power levels in this game, and all this ban does is it just disadvantages people who can't get lucky enough to pull champions arbitrarily as 5 and 6-star ones that are super good and counter various matchups. Just disadvantage players. So it's just rubbish, mate. Absolute rubbish. And the justifications for it have been at best very poor. At best, ladies and gentlemen. So I ask you, if you feel the same way I do, go to the App Store, leave a 1-star review. This is an additional way of conveying my disappointment, hopefully your disappointment and frustration as well with this decision. Stargate should not be a feature of this game. I'm fine with class gates, I'm fine with tag gates, because 4-star champions are very accessible and you can get a wide roster of them, and I like that I can use 4 stars and skill to overcome content instead of being arbitrarily gated and being forced to use whatever 5 and 6-star champions I have for no reason other than you want me to grind more and get more 5-star characters, or you want me as the customer to spend more money so I can hopefully get lucky and access this content. So it's just a load of rubbish at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, and I feel like I've repeated myself so much over the course of the last week that, quite frankly, I'm just bored of, you know, hearing myself and bored with the tone-deaf response of Kabam. So my only option has been, thus today, making this video asking you if you feel the same way to leave a 1-star review. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let me know how you feel in the comment section below. Take care, and I hope that you have an absolutely fantastic day.